Hello everyone, my name is Casey Samson, and today we're going to talk about our pricing strategy. With $100,000 on the line on every deal, the goal here is to get the home sold, get as many people in the home and sold in the first weekend. That's when we get the highest deals, highest prices, best terms, no contingencies, no home inspection. So this whole pricing strategy is designed about getting that home under contract in that first weekend with multiple contracts, right? Now, before I listen to anybody tell me their opinion of something, I need to validate their credibility. So in two charts, let me try and validate the credibility of this pricing strategy. The first one is you'll see up on the top left, this is going back to 2015, that orange line is Long & Foster. By far the #1 realtor in the area. They've been there since the 70s, 60s, I guess. And in 2015, they had the #1 market share in Northern Virginia. You can see as time has gone on to 2023, 2022, that their market share has slipped. But the blue line is Samson Properties. So at this time, Samson Properties has taken over as the #1 realtor in Northern Virginia. Now, there's a lot of components responsible for that, right? So we do a lot of training at Samson Properties. So this tape, this pricing strategy, will be seen by a lot of agents. But we also have a great settlement and title company in Cardinal Title. First Heritage is the lender that we use here. So we've got a great team, and that's what's propelled us to #1. Now, the Casey Samson Team is the #1 listing team in the state of Virginia for Samson Properties. So this pricing strategy is a big reason why we've been #1 at Samson Properties since 2015. Now, our home base is out in Vienna and Oakton. Even though we cover everything from Arlington all the way out to the Plains, Vienna, Oakton is where we do a lot of business. So in Vienna, Oakton, we did $86 million last year, and you can see that most of the top producers in the top 20 did about $10, $11 million. So the pricing strategy has a lot to do with how we got such a large market share in there. So 2022, we did $160 million, which would make us the #1 medium-sized team in the state of Virginia in the Wall Street Journal. But more importantly for this, 92% of our listings sold in the first 7 days, which is the goal, and it's critical to making this happen. So let's look at the 5 elements of our pricing strategy. The first thing we need to do is we need to establish a customary value for the home. Now, I've developed models over the last 15 years that can pretty much lock in to the customary value of what each home is, and you can do it pretty quickly, right? So the customary value is, let's call that the bedrock. That's where half the homes sold over and half the homes sold under, but this is the median or average price per square foot, percentage of assessment, that kind of thing. So customary value is the first thing we need to establish. The next thing we need to do is establish the upgrades and condition of the house. So if this is the bedrock, if this is customary value, homes sell for $100,000 over customary value or $100,000 under customary value. So how the agents, how the realtors, Casey Samson Team and our partners, how we decide the upgrades and condition and lot discount or premium, that is going to move that teeter-totter up and down. And again, it can be worth, and I'll show you here in a minute, be worth over $100,000. We need to analyze market conditions, the third thing we need to do. We need to know, am I competing against one house or am I competing against 10 houses, right? There's a whole different strategy that we're going to take if we have nobody out there. We can become more aggressive. But if we've got a lot of competition and they're all priced right, we need to be a little more conservative with where we go out at. So then we need to find where is the nearest pricing threshold, right? So you wouldn't put a house on the market for $1,025,000 because under $1 million, the buyer pool is 6 times bigger than over $1 million. So you want to be real thoughtful about where you tuck that price because you want to attract the most people. Remember, most people in the house, most contracts, successful sale, no contingencies. So the last thing we're going to do, and this is the most important thing, we're going to test that price on the market. Julie and our back office, is going to do all of the marketing. They're going to make it look great. We're going to launch on Coming Soon. We're going to market the heck out of it with geofencing and Google Ads, which is a whole different seminar. And we're going to introduce it to 15,000 people, and then we're going to listen. How many people are coming? How many people want to see the house? Is there any traffic? Is there any chatter from the other agents? So we'll run, the last thing we'll do is run a predictive analysis. And I con this to like, you wouldn't walk out into the street without looking both ways. You wouldn't go out, you need to know how to dress by looking at what the weather is going to be for the day. So the predictive analysis is looking both ways before you cross the street. Now, some sellers don't look, or agents don't look both ways, and they get hit by a bus. Well, see, we want to be driving the bus, and we want to have our sellers in the passenger seat of the bus. So somebody's going to be driving the bus, somebody's going to get hit by the bus. We want to make sure that we're in control of the market and the buyer pool, okay? Now, some people's pricing strategy is see what Zillow says it's worth and put it on for that. That is absolutely the wrong way to do it. It's not about the what. I was just in a house yesterday. The seller said an agent came in here. They said the house was worth $1.75 million. Based on the pricing strategy and what I've seen, the house should not go off a dollar over $1.35 million. They were off by $400,000. That's what the seller wanted. So let's look at the pricing strategy. Let's look at the how. So when an agent comes in and says, this is what I think your house is worth, don't listen to the what. Listen to the how they arrived at that price. Now I'm going to tell you how we arrive at our price. Let's start with customary value. So we'll start at the beginning. The beginning is we look at the tax record of a couple of items. The first item is, what's the square footage of the house? Above grade, not entire. You market all the square footage, but you price with just the above grade square footage. We want to know what the age of the house is, right? Because the price per square foot is adjusted for age and size. We want to know what the assessment is worth, because percentage of assessment is a very powerful tool. And then we want to look at what the lot is. Do you have a 40,000 square foot lot and everybody else has 10? So then it would have a lot premium or a lot discount. So we need to look at all of these items. These are the most important elements that we look at. So in the bottom left, you'll see this is our search. This is where you go looking for comparables. And I look for everything. Everything's active, under contract, sold, pending, everything. Because that's going to tell me what the market's doing. So down here you can see I've gone 2,500 to 3,500. That home that we're trying to look at has 3,000 square feet. So, you go up maybe 500, down 500. Then the age. The age is 1980, so we'll search from 1970 to 1990, give it plenty of room. But we don't want to compare a 2010 house to a 1980s house. Too far away. So what we're looking for is, and then we'll go back 30, 60, 90 days. Now you adjust these criteria until you have about 15 samples in that market. 15 homes that are either under contract or active or sold or expired or whatever. I need 15 samples. So we get a proper sample size. So now we've got our 15 houses. We have 4 of them that are sold. Now we're ready to start analyzing the customary value. So the first stop is price per square foot. Very, very important, okay? So down here, you can see on this chart, this is what our pricing model looks like. This is the age and size pricing model. So on the left, you'll see the average value based on price per square foot, right? And you'll see that the square footage divided by the sales price, yada, yada, yada. You'll see what the average price per square foot is of the homes that have sold, right? Now, we need to adjust that price per square foot up and down based on our size and age. We also need to throw out any anomalies. An anomaly is a house where everybody's selling at about 120%, and then one comes in at 145%. There's no rhyme or reason for why that happened. It could be a lot of reasons, but we throw that out. Because pruning your comps is critical. If you have the wrong comp that's in this group, it could throw you off by $50,000 or $100,000. So we prune this, and this takes a good skilled realtor to do this. So we prune it out, and you can see down here that top one that's 145%. Basically, how I know which ones are the anomaly, I'll take the smallest one, 116, I'll put 20% onto that. That gives me about 136. So anything between 116 and 136 is what I'm looking for. You can see that the one is 137, which is close enough, so I'll leave that in. So if I throw out the top one at 145% of assessment, now you'll see that I'm pretty much 124% of assessment. Okay? So that is the price per square foot. Now, I need to adjust that price per square foot. If we're smaller, like look in the top example, the average is, it looks like 2,900, and this property is 2,500 square feet. Well, the smaller the square footage, the higher the price per square foot goes. The larger the house, the smaller the price per square foot goes. This is a formula we've worked out over 15 years, and it works. So this is basically saying a 2,500 square foot house with all these characteristics is about $1.2 million. Now, if I throw out the top, if now look on the bottom screen, if it's 3,200 as the square feet, not 2,500, see how that price per square foot goes from, I can't see it, but it goes from higher to lower. So the higher the square footage, the lower the price per square foot, right? So the first house, 2,500, is at 1.2 million. But the second house at 3,200 has a lower price per square foot, but is valued at 1.325 million. So the first thing we need to do is we need to, through our models, adjust that price per square foot so we're locked in on its value based on an adjusted price per square foot. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the assessments. So let's just assume all houses in this case are between 116 and 136. So the average is about 124. So let's start with the average. The average is 124% of assessment. What is 124% of the assessment of my subject property? About 123. So I've got one home, the price per square foot may say 1.2. This says 1.23. I'm pretty certain that the customary value for this house is somewhere between 1.2 and 1.25. So now we're starting to narrow in on our customary value. Okay? So once we have the customary value and we're locked in, now again, I'll tell you that of the properties that we're dealing with, that customary value is not off by 0.5%. So we'll lock down what the customary value is of all these homes. Now we need to start figuring out if we're at 1.2 to 1.25, right? 1.225 is what we really are, but that's customary. So what's going to push us up or what's going to push us down? This home is a home that we listed, and this is a dated look, right? So you see the lamp, the light, you see the rug, you see the paint. That is a traditional looking home. If you look on the right, that's what their living room looked like, right? So the condition of the house is going to dictate, am I below customary or am I above customary? This is traditional. That's transitional. So this required paint, new carpet, new lighting fixture, cleaned the whole thing out, lightened it up. This is a transitional look. This house is worth $100,000 more than that house. Now, it cost $8,000 to go from here to there. And these people got a $125,000 over list price. They had no home inspection. They had no contingency on appraisal. It would never appraise for the price we got for that house. This house is a $975,000 customary value. Now, it took 80 days in, what's that golf course? Knew I'd forget the golf course. Over in Fairfax, Penderbrook. So in Penderbrook, it takes 80 days on average to sell a house, and their average customary value is $975,000. So I was a little concerned with the days on market, so I priced a little low. We fixed it up. This is traditional. This, a couple $1,000s worth of paint, thinning it out, new rug, right? This sold for $1,095,000 with 17 contracts in the first weekend. So it sold for $120,000 over customary value. And instead of spending 80 days on the market, it had 17 contracts. We had 100 people through the open house. Now that's what the condition of the house means to, and again, this is an entirely different seminar we're going to have, but when I'm calculating what a house is worth, I really need to know what kind of condition the house is in. The next thing we need to look at in that, are we up or down on the teeter-totter, is what are the upgrades of the house? How does the kitchen look? How does the master bedroom, bathroom look? Those are the first two things that a buyer is going to look at. Now, with that said, let me just say this. When you're marketing the house, you need to have in your first five pictures, what's the condition and upgrades in this house? What are the defining characteristics of this home? And as Julie will tell you, I get pretty snarky when I'm like, wait a minute, it's got a great wine cellar. Why is that not in the top five pictures? And we make sure we get those first five pictures that talk about the upgrades and how cool this house looks. So kitchens, bathrooms, when was the last time they were renovated? Then you have to look at the comps. When are they have nice kitchens or bathrooms? So we need to rate those against the customary comparables. Is the basement updated or is it unfinished? Is the landscaping? Some people have spent $100,000 on landscaping. Somebody throw a few bushes up, right? So landscaping is important. We call that the lipstick, right? The entertainment features in the backyard can go anywhere from nothing or a rickety old deck all the way to $500,000 worth of pools and gazebos and all sorts of things in the backyard. So we need to look at what are the upgrades that this house has. So condition, upgrades, and lot premium. If you're on a double yellow line, that is a $100,000 discount to price. So if you comp out and you're at 1.25, but you're on a double yellow line, you are at 1.15 million. That's your customary value. Now the seller doesn't understand that because the seller lives in the house, and that's okay. The seller lives in the house and it's white noise to them. They don't even notice that 66 is there or Lawyers Road is there or Beulah Road is there. But it's there. And the buyers know it's there. And the buyers are going to discount that price. So in this, most people overprice homes that are on double yellow lines because they think it's fine, but it's not fine. There's a buyer prejudice that you have to take into account. So it could be anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 to $150,000. So then you have to look at what's behind the home on this lot. Is it a big lot? Is it a flat lot? Does the lot drop off in the back? Is there no grass in the back? Or is there a big flat backyard? So there's clearly, is there a home smaller than you behind you or bigger than you behind you? Or are you looking into the woods or a conservancy lot or whatever? So we need to look at the lot, and it is either going to have a lot premium or discount. So when we're done with that, we're at customary value. We've improved the condition, so it's great. We've made our adjustment for the upgrades in the house. We will not do kitchens and bathrooms. And again, that's a whole different scenario. But if you put in a new kitchen or a new bathroom, you may spend $50,000, but you're only going to get back $25,000. So we do not do capital improvements. We only do capital improvements. So now we've looked at the house. We've arrived at our customary value. We've looked at our upgrades. We've looked at our condition. We've improved the condition when we can. And we've come to our lot discount. So now we're pretty much leaning more towards not 1.225. Now if it's a really nice house, we're pretty much at 125, 1.275. We're moving that thing up the ladder. The buyers will decide what it's really worth. The buyers will decide. When 7 contracts come in, whoever the top bidder is, that's what the home is worth. Our job is to get the 7 people in the house that want to buy that house, want to put in contracts. So now I need to analyze the market. This is very important. Because we price for a lot of agents and we have teams all in other different markets, we need to be able to step in and analyze the entire market. What's closed, what's coming soon, what's active, what's under contract, and what's been withdrawn. And I could put a customary value on every one of those houses in seconds. So I need to know who's on the market. So let me give you an example. Let's say there's only 1 active home on the market and 7 are under contract. We can get pretty aggressive. We might go to 1.3 instead of 1.275. So that might move us up. We can get more aggressive. But if there's 8 homes on the market and they're all competing, then we may duck under the next threshold, which is 1.25. So we're analyzing the market. How many homes are under contract? How many are active? And the reason why we need to put a customary value on every one of those houses, let's say you have 5 homes on the market, but each one of them is overpriced by $100,000, $150,000. We don't have any competition. They're all overpriced. Don't worry about it. They're all overpriced. But if they're underpriced and sitting there and not selling, that's going to really pressure me to whether I'm putting the home higher or lower. So you see, we're like this the whole time, right? Now, at this point, analyzing a market requires a market expert. So in Willowsford or in Aldi, Ferris Eways is our partner. He's on our team, and he could tell us all these adjustments that need to be made out there. What the customary way of doing things is in Willowsford. Johnny G and Laura, they are out in Haymarket, so they can tell us. We can send them this for their property or the entire thing of Haymarket, and they can analyze the market. This is invaluable when we are using it with sellers and with buyers, trying to figure out what are the customary values of these homes. So analyzing the market is really one of the last things that we do. We're really trying to figure out where should we be on that teeter-totter. So analyzing the market is step 3. Now we need to find a buyer pool. So here again, the buyer pool is not at 1,225. The buyer pool is at 1.2 or 1.25, or 1.25 or 1.3. So we're not going in $25,000 increments. You go in $50,000 increments because that's where the buyer pool is. Now there are bigger buyer pools at 100,000. So I don't want to be at 925,000. I want to be at 900, because the buyer pool at the $100,000 break level is 2 to 3 times bigger than if you go over 900, right? So we don't want to go to 925 and give up 75% of the buyer pool, right? So let's stay at 900. So we're now applying where the bigger buyer pools are. Where are the big buyer pools? Under $100,000. Bigger buyer pools, 750, 1.25 million, 1.75 million. These are real breaking points that I like to say. Now the biggest, the largest, is at 500,000. You don't want to be at 510, right? You got a lot more people under 500 than over 500, so stay under 500. Remember, the buyers are going to dictate what this home is worth. And the job of the list price is to drive buyers into the home, present the home correctly, and then take as many bids as you possibly can. The highest bid is what the home is worth. So I'm just talking about where we list prices at. So 500, 1 million. Do not go $1,025,000. Do not go 1.525, because there's a huge buyer pool under 1.5 million. In fact, we just tested that one, and that is at least 3 times bigger. We went from 119 people in the buyer pool at 1.55 all the way up to 375 when we dipped it under 1.5 million. And I'm going to show you in a second how we do that, how we know it. So we want to be cognizant. Step 4, be cognizant of where the buyers are, right? It does you no good to fish and you take your line and you're off a pier to hold the bait 5 feet above the water, right? The fish are in the water. So some people are fishing and their bait's not in the water yet. It's too high. That's not where the buyer pool is. You need to get the bait in the water. So let's make sure the bait looks great and they're really hungry. Get it in the water where the fish are. So all we're trying to do is find out where the buyer pool is. And how we find out about the buyer pool, in 2020, we changed everything. The pandemic changed everybody. We weren't sure if there was even anybody out there buying houses in 2020. Is anybody going to come out during COVID? They won't even go out to the grocery store. How are we going to get people to buy a house? So what I did was, we went to Julie and we said, look, our marketing is awesome when we launch a house, but we need to take everything and move it back to the coming soon period. Let's launch everything during coming soon. Let's launch all the marketing, geofencing, Google ads, realtor promotions, everything in coming soon. And that leads us to the final and most important step in the pricing analysis. The predictive analysis will tell us, now this picture up in the upper left-hand corner, right? That home was not testing well at all. Although 14,000 people have seen it, we only had 1 showing coming in. So there was all the likes and loves that we want. And over on the right-hand side, that's called the hit counter. So I can see how big the buyer pool is. I can see how many people love it or like it, how many people are favoring it. I have all the realtors' email addresses and phone numbers so I can notify them. Your client loves it. You need to get out and show this house. But if that shows your buyer pool is only 60 people and it has nobody favoring it, you're in the wrong buyer pool. So we need to adjust that price. So we pay specific attention to what's going on online. What is the hit count? How are we doing on the hit count? Down in the lower corner, that's Google Analytics. Julie's driving people to our website. Once they hit that website, how many people are getting there? How many people like it? How many people how long do they stay? So on the bottom graph, you can see that we've had 165 people went to see this website, went to see this home's website. They stayed for an average of 6 minutes. Now on the internet, that's like a month. They stayed on there for a month. Because usually, if you have those Matterhorns, they'll stay on and look at those for about 15 seconds. If you have a video of the property, they'll stay on for 12 to 14 seconds. But 6 minutes on a website, looking at all the things and clicking things on the website. So the winning formula is not video. It's not the Matterhorn. It's the website. Give them information on the house on the website. And we can do as much of that as we want. But in the bottom right-hand corner, that is showing time. How many people are coming? If one people is scheduled a showing, and we're going to launch on Thursday, if only one person has scheduled a showing on Friday, we're at the wrong number. We got a problem. And we just had it. And we were over 1.5 million. We had one person coming. It was not testing well. We dropped it under 1.5 million. Before you know it, we got 20 showings. We got a few contracts, and we sold the house at $50,000 over list price. But if we launch that house at 155, nobody's coming. But if you dropped it under 1.5, now everybody comes, multiple contracts, leaded bid over top, no home inspection, no appraisal contingency, no nothing. So again, the predictive analysis is looking both ways before you walk in the street. Is anybody coming? We don't want to get hit by the bus. Now, should we miss this? Should we go out with a small buyer pool, nobody loving it, nobody liking it, nobody coming to show? We can't drop that price for a 30-day minimum. So we got to sit there for 30 days. And we're going to try and try, but our predictive analysis told us nobody's coming, and nobody does come. So, I know it's biting the bullet for sellers to say, but I really want 1.35. Yeah, but that's not testing well. We need to get under 1.3. So we got under 1.3. We got 12 contracts. We ended up at 1.49. Now, this isn't an anomaly. That's the norm. We would have people, 1.45 did not test well. So we had to drop the price to 1.4. When we dropped the price to 1.4, we only had one contract. But because it was in the first week, and because the agent and their lender disclosed to us that the seller had already lost 5 bidded contracts. They bid on 5, they lost them all. So we went back and we said, we need your highest and best offer. No escalation clause. They had an escalation clause, they had no escalation clause. So they bid against themselves. And they came back in at 155, no home inspection, no appraisal contingency, and the deposit was live. If they leave for any reason, we keep that deposit. We made $150,000. We had one bidder. That's the power of the first weekend, okay? So you have to be, and again, this is for my sellers, and the agents are going to watch it. But if you're an agent, you have to be strong enough to say, we do not have a buyer pool at the number that we want. We need to get it down to a lower level where there's more buyers if we're going to generate this kind of income. And for my sellers, I know we don't want to move to 1.3, but when we did, we got $190,000 over list price. And that's not just because of the market. It's not just because of the market. So pricing is a collaboration. Again, I say, it's not I'm not going to come in and tell you what your house is worth. like that agent walked in and said, your house is worth 1.75. Prove it. How did you arrive at that? How did you get to that price, right? It's a collaboration. We need to establish what the customary value is. That's us. That's just what the computers say. That's what the solds, the price per square foot, adjusted for size and age. That's what percentage of assessment. I'm sorry, but of the 5 comps, that's solid. So the customary value is solid, and that's what we provide to our agents that are in the field. Now, a seller may say, the neighbors sold, the Murphys sold their house for $1.4 million, so we should really not be worth 1.2, we should be worth more like $1.4 million. But the Murphys' house was assessed for $250,000 higher than yours. They were 500 square feet, and they had some elaborate thing in the backyard. Plus, they just put in a new kitchen. So if we compared ourselves to them, put them in the model, compared ourselves to them, we would be worth pretty much right about where we thought we would be worth. But it's important that the sellers get involved in this process and tell us, are there any homes in your market that may be outside of that 30, 60, 90-day period? Maybe they sold it in the spring, or they sold it 6 months ago. Let us add that into the market, to the model. Let's see where we come out. Then, when we adjust for condition and upgrades and lot discounts, really, that's the local partner. That's why a realtor's hands have got to be involved in this. We have to have in Vienna, I lock down. Oakton locked down. Pat locks down Centerville. Ferris locks down, Aldi and Willowsford. And Johnny can lock it. So this is really what your local agent is here to do, is try and assess, what is a pool worth, right? What is $100,000 in your backyard? What is that really worth? Well, is it worth 50%? Is it worth 75%? Or do all the houses have that? So this is where you're moving it up and down that teeter-totter on this pricing strategy. That is a local realtor in conjunction with the seller, right? We need to be talking about this. Where is it? So I went into a house, it's $1.7 million. It is the Mac Daddy of houses. When this comes on the market at the end of April, it is the best $1.75 million house Vienna's seen, right? So it comes out, the customary value is 1.7. We're going to come out at 1.75 because everything is so awesome in this house. And if the market isn't crazy, we'll probably get 1.825. And I can tell you that from just sitting here. It's going to probably have 10 contracts in on it. It's going to end up somewhere over 1.825. Its customary value is 1.7, right? So we need to be thoughtful, right? We need to analyze the market. And again, when we're analyzing the market, we're working with the seller on this and the agent, and we're working hard. Because if we miss the price, we're going to lose $100,000. That's just the average that I know we're going to lose. If we have to sit for 30 days and we have to go into the downward spiral of the pricing spiral, it's going to end poorly for everybody. So we need to be accurate. We need to be on point. We need to analyze the market conditions. This has got to be all disclosed to the seller as we're doing it, right? We got to know the pricing threshold has nothing to do with the agent or me or anybody. The pricing threshold is a pricing threshold. Under $1 million, it's 5 times bigger than it is over $1 million. Under a $50,000 threshold is bigger than it is over a $50,000 threshold. So that's just by rule. That's got nothing to do with anybody, right? You have to be working with a professional realtor that understands where the buyer pools are. And the last one, something that is unique to the Casey Samson team, is the predictive analysis in looking both ways, consulting with the seller, and going to them and saying, look, I'll be honest with you. This is where sellers can be invaluable. We tested the house at $1.6 million. We had one person coming. It was not the price. We normally drop it to 1.55 because the seller will sometimes have a heart attack if we're going to drop it more than $50,000. But we had a guy that was really high up in SoFi. I think I'm saying that right. SoFi, whatever the stadium is named after. He's a finance guy. And I said, look, we can move to 1.55, massive buyer pool under 1.5. He dropped it to 1.5, which was so smart on his part. Dropped it to 1.5. We got 1.55. We got 1.55 first weekend. Everything's clear, hands up, no home inspection, no nothing, because we hit that bigger buyer pool. We got 20 people in. we got bids on the house, and there you go. So that now, I have sellers that say no. I say there's no market here. We need to get down. And they'll say, let's go ahead and just test it. Those homes, in my opinion, lose at least $75,000 to $100,000 when they don't find the right buyer pool. So I try and be, it's up to the seller to price their house where they want to be. I try and be very firm when I know what's coming, when I've seen the movie and I know how it ends. I really recommend that this is what we do. Push them a little harder, and usually we get it. I would say, and again, probably 9 out of 10, they do it. But I can tell you that failure to use these 5 steps, failure to be in a collective process where we have all of the elements of the pricing strategy, if you fail, then you lose money. So my job is to make as much money for our sellers as humanly possible. All right? So let me see if I have any other good things about our pricing strategy. And, let me just say that one of the important things is when we're analyzing a market like this, you can see over on the left, these are the closed properties. See those 6 properties? Based on their statistics, on what they sold for, we can go ahead and clearly come to a complementary or a customary value on every house. And from that, I can tell you if you look at it, the coming soon properties are all $85,000, $90,000 under customary value. So what does that tell you? They're coming in hot. These homes are going to sell. I'm just going to tell you they're very competitive and they're going to sell. The ones that are active, been on the market for 87 days, 25 days, 23 days, 14 days. Do I think those are competitors? No. The competition isn't coming from the active properties. The competition is coming from the coming soons. So that's why all of this is important. Other things you can analyze with this. See where it says A/C down in the bottom left-hand corner? Those are active contingent. That means that they had to accept a contract that was contingent on the sale of another home. That's not exactly a good sign. That's not what you want. It's not the goal. The goal is to get the P&D, pending. We want to be pending. So, when we're looking at this, we need to make sure we're cognizant of everything. Customary value, market conditions, predictive analysis. So again, the authentication that this strategy works at $160 million in 2020. And I can tell you this, we're not making that money because of my looks. Not like I'm a pretty person out there doing videos and so I was like, I want to do that pretty good-looking guy, right? So I must be smart as hell if I can do that much business looking like this, right? So, and the reason we do the business is 92% of the listings meet that goal. We get in there in that first 7 days. We make money, and then all we do is tell all the neighbors what we did for them, and the neighbors call us. And if you want to know about marketing strategy, we don't cold call people. We don't buy leads off Zillow. We don't buy leads off Realtor.com. Our strategy is this. Do an incredible job listing a house. Get them more money than everybody thought they could get, and then tell all the neighbors. That's what made us Wall Street Journal's #1 team in the state of Virginia. And it's not cold calling. It's not because of my looks. It's because of what I just talked about on pricing strategy. So my name is Casey Samson. You can reach me at 703-508-2535, or you can email me at casey@caseysamson.com, and we'd be happy to help.